Hey everybody, it's Troy Stein. If you joined me on the webinar, you saw how in the first part of the webinar we did hands-on with the project, and we're going to continue that. You saw how we were able to use behaviors to animate and make the text pop or graphics pop on the screen and to add a little bit of dynamic motion. Where we're at now is we're jumping down the timeline over here, and we are going to start the homework portion of this project, where you get to make something that looks like this. So a couple of little cuts and a bunch of slide motions. We're still going to be using the sliding behaviors here, but we're going to combine it step by step by step. So once again, watch me for a second. If you have a second monitor, definitely use this video on a second monitor. If you don't, my suggestion is do not have YouTube in full screen mode. It will make the switching back and forth a little bit complicated. But all right, we're going to jump into the homework portion right now, and we are going to be making something like this. Let me play that back one more time at normal speed. A little second bit of text there as well. Now, in this one, I'm obviously talking about a new feature coming out, but this title sequence with 2 bits of text could be just about anything. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a spotlight from the visual effects. So I've got a little bit of a blue shape here. I'm going to go into my visual effects and scroll down just a little bit until I get to my spotlight, and I will drag that down onto my blue shape. It is very easy to modify the amount of opacity here, the brightness, etc. I'm just going to undo that and leave that as the normal or the default color and brightness there. Next, I'm going to be using something called a media mat. This is a little bit like a mask. It's similar to a mask in that it will only show you what is underneath it. I've got this shape here, this yellow shape that sort of slides in, and I am going to go to my visual effects again. I'll take media mat, I'll drag that on, and you'll see that now it looks kind of like the blue shape is coming down when in fact the yellow shape was doing that. All right, go ahead and do those 2 things. If you haven't yet, go ahead and add the spotlight and then add the media mat onto the yellow. All right, coming back. We are now at the next part where we are simply going to group both shapes here. So if they're green, that means you're going to take action with them. I simply right click here and I'm going to choose group, and I will then right click one more time and I will rename that group and I'll call it left background. And there we go. Your turn. And we're back. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but now for the other side. So I've got this sort of light grayish color here. And one more time, this is a little bit of rinse and repeating. We are going to be adding the spotlight effect here. So I'll go back to spotlight, drag that down onto this one. So we've got, you can see the source of light here, right? And let's have you do that. And we're back one more time, a little bit on the rinsing and repeating. We've got a similar yellow box that's coming up. The color of the box doesn't matter at all. All it's doing is becoming a mat or a mask, if you will, for this background. And I am going to now go to the media mat, and I will drag that down onto the yellow shape so that it looks, whoops, I did not do that, right? Nope, I did not. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Okay, so now you see how the gray box and the blue box seem like they're animating together. Great, let's have you do that, please, by adding a media mat on top of the yellow shape. Making good headway here. Next is we're going to group these two shapes. So I select both of them. Holding down the Shift key is just fine. And I click them both and then right click and I will group, and I will then right click one more time and rename this one to right background. And let's have you do the same, please. All right, moving on. We're now at about 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the project, and the instructions here is simply to put the left background up on top of the right background, and then move them both down to look like that. Go for it. Moving on, we're doing great here. The next is we're going to add a drop shadow. We're going to add that to the left background, the one that's up on top here. And the drop shadow is again in the visual effects, and let's see, it's in, there we go. I'll drag that down. And if you're seeing these stars are because I use them so often that they show up in my favorites. But go ahead for now and add a drop shadow to the left background, please and thanks. All right, next we're going to take both of these groups, the left and the right group, and I'll select them and then right click to group them, and I am just going to call this one backgrounds. All right, we're going to use a media mat, but we're going to use it in a slightly different way. We're not just going to take the media mat, we're actually going to change its focus, or excuse me, its mode here. Let me show you how this works. If I take the media mat over here and I drag that onto the, hold on, before I do that, yep, it put it on, but I'm just going to turn it off. So this is without the media mats, but let's just take a look at it, right? We've got, in fact, I'm even going to, for a second, I'm going to hide the background just so you can just see that I've got the text. So the black text is staying there and the white is just flying in underneath. I'm going to turn back on my background and you get the idea. And if this is the look that works for you, that's great. Heavy contrast, that's a good thing to have black and white or some dark and bright colors working together. But I want to do something slightly different. If I use Media Mat, and once again, you simply take the Media Mat and you drag it onto the text. If I do that, there are different modes. The alpha mode reveals what is underneath it. So right now, for example, if it's in alpha mode, it's going to reveal that there was some white underneath it. If I change what was underneath it, let's say that I'm going to change it to a blue color, then it is going to reveal that a blue box is underneath it. I'm going to undo that. That's what we did the last time. Now this time, and this media mat is super powerful, folks. If I go to the media properties over here, and I go down to my media mat, I'm going to go to not to reveal what is underneath, but the invert of that is to conceal what is underneath that, right? So I'm going to essentially cut a hole through what is underneath it with my layer, which is on top. So here we go. And we now have a perfect cut through of that text. It's your turn now. Go ahead and please be so kind as to add a media mat and also to add an alpha invert. I'll give you a minute to do that. And I do hope that you're pausing my video because we are running and moving forward. Next, what I'd like you to do, now that we've made this nice little look here, I am going to ask you to please select both of those, group them, and then would ask you to rename them both, rename those group as simply lower text. Go ahead and do that if you'd be so kind. All right, moving forward. Now, you may need to scroll down, and as I've said before, on the Mac, you can make more room to see tracks. On Windows, you grab it up here to move this up and down to reveal more tracks. Now, what I've got here is I've got the same cool cut through up here, but at the top I don't have the cut through. I have the same black text here. I've got a white box, and I've got a little bit of text here that just says 2. We're not worried about that right now, but we are going to change the media mat, or we're going to apply a media mat to the top text. So I will go to media mat and I will drag that down. And as before, by default, it reveals what was underneath, which is white. We're going to, however, conceal, which is alpha invert. And boom, we've got that nice little motion graphic. We are making great progress here. So go ahead, please and thanks. And let's add the media mat and alpha invert to the step capture text up here. All right, we're cooking with fire now, folks. Well done so far. What I'd like you to do is to group these 2 items, and we are going to call these 2, 1, 2. We'll group them, and I will rename that simply as top text. Okay, there we go. And so go ahead and do that, please and thanks. All right, coming back. Now, what I'd like you to do now is select these 3, and let's group that. And we are going to rename that group to be simply text part 1, because as you can tell, we're going to add a second part of the animation. So if you'd be so kind, group everything up on the top of here and rename the group to text part 1. All right, now we're cooking in the next part of our meal, if you will, with this second bit of text where in the first part, we've said, hey, there's this feature, it's called step capture, and now we're going to tell you the product that we can do it with. And as you can guess, we're going to use media mat again up at the top. I'm going to take media mat and drop that down, go to the alpha invert, and there we go. So we've got it just the way we want. So if you'd be so kind as to add the media mat, alpha invert, to the text up here, please and thanks. We're making great progress here. What I'd like you to do is to group that together, and we will then simply rename that as product name. All right, you're up. And, oops, looks like definitely, I duplicated that. My apologies. What's that? 6 minutes and 30 seconds. You do not need that. It was just a duplicate. Sorry about that. Okay. Next there is just a little bit of text that I added on here that says new in. And by the way, yes, indeed, you can see how this has the same slide in behavior. I use it so often that it's slide left to right, and I use it. And all I do in this case is I didn't slide from left to right. I just use it and I change it to sliding smooth, but it's coming from the bottom. That's it, right? What we're going to do here, however, is we are going to group it, because I want, by grouping this is going to constrain the animation to just fit in that space. So I can hit the hotkey, Command G or Control G, or I could have right-clicked it to group it. I'm also going to rename this, and I'm just going to call this one new in. But the reason that I did that is so that the animation only happens just there, nice and gentle. So it's very tight. Okay, be so kind as to group the text and rename it new in. Oh man, we are so close to being done here. Okay, next, we're going to take all of the text in the phase 2, and we're simply going to group it, and then we are going to rename it, and we're going to call this one text-phase 2 of the text. I could have called it whatever you want, really doesn't matter that much, but if you'd be so kind as to do that, that would be awesome. All right. Next, we're going to do a final grouping of everything here. In case you couldn't tell, you can do groups of groups of groups. So I've selected everything here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to group it, and I am going to rename this simply as angle titles, something like that. There we go. And you can see how nicely this works. We're close to done, but the beauty of Camtasia is that you can make this easier for you the next time to modify. You can also make it easier for you to share and as a branded asset with your group. So we do that now with modifying the quick properties. Please just take a minute and let me show you how to do this, because this can feel a little bit, there's a lot that you're going to see here. What you'll notice over here when I click on my angle title is that I've got colors and I've got text. I want to make it, which is really lovely, because let's say that I want to update this video for 2027, and there we go, right? It's quite easy to do. When I click on this pencil up here to edit this thing, which is called not just my properties, but we call these our quick properties. So we're going to edit the quick properties here. And I have got some options here that I want to take a look at. First, I've got the background color, and I usually just call it BG1. And my second one is BG2 for short. I can't, like let me just show you. I don't think the background 2, I don't think it's going to show all the way. Yeah, it gets cut off right over there. So I just usually go to BG2, okay? The call out, which this was just the shape that I use as a mask or a matte, and I am simply going to hit the red X because I don't need to see that. That's nothing that anybody is going to need to change. This is going to be my my box, box. Oh, maybe box. Let's see how much I can type in. Sliding box. Does that show up? Oh, it does! Yay! Okay. So I've got my sliding box, and then I've got my text here. And if I remember correctly, it was step capture to PowerPoint. That was the first thing that was on the slide. So I'm going to move the first one up, and I'm going to call that one text 1, and I'm going to move 2 up, and that was text 2, and then I've got text 3, and then new in, I'm going to push that up, text 4 and text 5. So I've got all of those, and I hit tab so that it shows up over here. So I already got a good start. The other thing I want to do here is it is possible that you might have other products that you're going to use this for. What I recommend doing is connecting this to your themes. I'm going to see if I can open up a theme real quick to show you. Yep, I can. So let's push our quick property editor down here. And right now whoops, let me close this for just a second. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here, and we're making this for Snagit, right? And Snagit has some blue. I think I even got a couple of Snagits. Yeah, this one's got some blue as well as some gray colors. But you can tell that the background colors are the darker colors. The brighter colors are the accent colors. And I almost always keep the foreground colors to be white. Let's say that, yep, I made this for Snagit and it's pulling in the blue colors just fine, but I want to make it possible for my team to be able to switch out and use a different theme here. So again, darker colors and brighter colors on the accent. So let's go back over here to the properties, or for the quick property editor, and you'll see these gears here. If I go and hit that gear, I can say, yep, we're going to choose a background color. Actually, I'm going to choose background color 2 for this, and I'm going to choose accent color 1. Let me do that one more time and just make that background 1. All right, background 1, accent 1, and the sliding box I'm just going to always keep as the foreground color. And you see them green, and you're good to go on that. All right, so I've saved that. And now, if all goes well, I can go and choose a theme here. Let's say the Camtasia color. And there we go. So I've got a nice different look. If I go to Audiate, I've got different looks there for that product. It all depends on the theme that was used to make it happen. Now you can still override it. Like let's say in the Audiate one, I want the lighter one, or no, well, it's definitely not going to work. Let's choose. Oops. Let's get rid of that. And background 2, if I wanted to, I can still take that color and then just drive it down until it's a much darker color. Those are options as well, or I can go in any one of the directions to get an interesting and complementary color there. But that's how that works. It does, using the theme certainly does allow you to switch between products very quickly to create looks that are just right for you and your organization. And we'll go back to that one. There we go. All right, folks, I want you to give yourself a high five. Congratulations on finishing up this project. I hope you've learned about the visual effects, about media mats, about the behaviors, about organizing and grouping, and even the quick property editors. You can begin building your own assets this way. It also makes it easier for you to ungroup or to take somebody else's asset and sort of get a feel for what they did and say, oh, okay, I know what they're doing there, and then modify and make it your own. Thanks for using Camtasia. I hope you're enjoying the journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and have fun in the process. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.